Steelers fans, I think we're cooked. This wasn't a video I planned on making. I was going to make a video ranking all of the head coaching candidates. And I guess we jumped the gun and we hired our head coach, Mike McCarthy. Just a quick spoiler. I guess it's not a spoiler because the video is never going to come out now. But I had Mike McCarthy ranked 8th out of 9th of our head coaching candidates. I don't need to beat a dead horse by ranting about how dumb of a decision it was or by crashing out, which, I've crashed out already. This won't be a rant or a crash out, but I will spend this video systemically reviewing why this decision will set the franchise back for some years. So going into this coaching candidacy and this head coaching vacancy, I had Chris Shula as my number one ranked candidate, which I'm sure many people had. He was the ultimate Steelers hire. He was a young defensive coach with new ideas. He took a Rams defense that was ranked 14th with Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. They left. Raheem Morris left. He took over, and he took a batch of 3rd, 4th, and 5th round picks, turned them into all-pros, and made them a top 10 defense. Not only that, but he actually has experience as a pass game coordinator as well on the offensive side of the ball. And he is McVay's guy. And Sean McVay, who was arguably the best coach in the NFL, in the best young coach for sure in the NFL, and who has a fully established tree at, I think, like 40 years old. That was his guy. That's who we should have gotten. The game is changing. We need to change with the game. And we still could have remained in the Steelers tradition by hiring a defensive guy. And then my second choice was Nate Scheelhaase, which is the pass game coordinator of the Rams. I mean, this is a no-brainer, the pass game coordinator of the best passing game in the entire NFL, who was also said to have interviewed very well for his first virtual interview, but I guess we didn't want to wait for them to become available for the in-person interview next week or 2 weeks from now once the Rams exit the playoffs or I guess win the Super Bowl or whenever they become available to be interviewed. We wanted to jump the gun and hire Mike McCarthy as soon as we could, so we didn't even bother giving those McVay disciples a second interview, which in the modern NFL, that is an insane decision. But there are a lot of guys on that list, even outside of those two, that I found interesting. Clay Kubiak. You look at a guy who was a quarterback's coach the year they drafted Brock Purdy and helped to develop a 7th round Mr. Relevant quarterback into a top 10, top 12 quarterback in the NFL, and who is now the offensive coordinator of the 49ers in a year where they were one of the most prolific offenses in the league, without George Kittle for most of the year, without Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel was gone, and they were even more efficient. You've got Anthony Weaver, who made the Dolphins into a top 10 defense without any big standout roster that these other coaches may have. Of course, you've got Flores, who I wasn't crazy about because he already kind of did not succeed as a head coach, but he's taken that Vikings defense to a whole nother level, and maybe he's learned some lessons in his time from not being a coach. And he's already familiar with our staff. He's been here. Why we didn't make him defensive coordinator and we instead just decided to let him go and hire Terrell Austin, I don't know. But the consistent theme here, when you look at these guys, is the word potential. You can talk about their potential. You can say these guys have the potential to perform this way. Based on what they've done, they have the potential to do this. Because you know why? Because they're young. Like Carroll was and like Tomlin was. Tomlin steps down now that he's older so that we can get a fresh start because he knows that his time is up in Pittsburgh. He wants to give us a fresh start, and we go and hire a coach that's older than him. We're supposed to be the franchise that hires a young coach for the future and holds on to them for 20, 25 years. And we hire a 62-year-old coach? I mean, one of the knocks on Tomlin is he only won one Super Bowl with that roster in 2009, and he hasn't done anything since, okay? Mike McCarthy won one Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, Donald Driver, Greg Jennings, Clay Matthews, all of those guys, and he continually choked in the NFC playoffs every single year since, was forced out of Green Bay. They hired Mike LaFleur, a young offensive mind, forced Mike McCarthy out. Cowboys go and get him, and he does the same thing in Dallas. He continually chokes in the first or second round of the playoffs with Dallas, and obviously was fired in 2024 because of it. So you essentially get rid of Mike Tomlin to get Mike Tomlin, like he's still Mike Tomlin. He has the same issues. He gets bounced out on the first or second round of the playoffs, and he doesn't make any splash in the playoffs, no matter how good his roster is. And yes, he will be perfectly good enough to get you to a good record in the regular season, and then proceed to be unremarkable and get out-coached in the playoffs. And he's unlikely to bring in a young, fresh offensive mind because he's an offensive guy himself, and he wants to run offense the way that he ran offense back in the 2000s, in 2005 when he was an offensive coordinator for the 49ers, when he ran the Texas Coast offense that, yes, okay, it made him famous in the mid-2000s. He's still running it now. And since then, his play calling has been criticized for being too static, for being too conservative, for not being dynamic enough, for not being fresh enough. And I really hope we hired him beyond some reason besides, oh, he's from Pittsburgh, because we made that same mistake with Kenny Pickett. We drafted him because he was the Pittsburgh guy. When will we stop doing that? We need to start evaluating talent without bias. And I don't understand this sense of urgency. I mean, you hire a coach on January 24th, but you could have waited until January 27th, or let's say the Rams make it to the Super Bowl, okay? February 9th, like, why does it matter? It's a difference of 2 weeks or even 2 days. You need to at least give them a chance to interview in person, especially if their virtual interview went well. That does not make sense. There's no way that you can explain it where it makes sense. And another thing is, and this is something I found when doing my research for my head coach candidate ranking video that I was supposed to do today, during McCarthy's 5 years being head coach of the Cowboys, they ranked first in the NFL in penalties 3 times. They were the most undisciplined team in football throughout his entire tenure. And that's over the course of 5 years. That's 5 different 53-man rosters, and you somehow don't have them prepared. You don't have them disciplined. Mind you, the Steelers this year under Tomlin were the 24th most penalized team. So that's another place where we're actively downgrading. This is a franchise that is complacent. This is a franchise that is scared for what the future will look like, scared to take risks, and scared of failure. They think that barely finishing above 500 and barely making the playoffs is a lack of failure. That is failure. This is the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is the most successful franchise in NFL history in the Super Bowl. It seems Art Rooney II liked the stability that Tomlin provided, and he went out and he sought that in the next coach. He sought a coach that's going to be conservative, that's not going to make any waves, and that's going to keep us from having the rebuild that we truly need to have at this moment in time. This is already something that we've been delaying the last 5 years, and we will continue to delay it another 5 or another 7 or however long we decide to keep Mike McCarthy as our head coach and not hire for the future, which is what we have done in the past. Maybe I can provide some light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe he assembles a good staff. Maybe he goes out and he gets Schilhaus or one of these other options to be his OC. But he ran the offense in Green Bay, he ran the offense in Dallas, and he likely will do it here. Sorry, Steelers fans, but it looks like we don't have much to look forward to this year or the next few years. I wish I could leave things on a more positive note because this is supposed to be a mostly positive channel, but I was already planning to cover the head coaching vacancy, so here it is. Here's my coverage. We're cooked.